What's up, guys? You want to do it? You want me to do it?
Welcome back to the Best Friend Files. I'm Jen. That's Bridget.
I'm Bridget. That's a fox.
This is a night fox, as you can tell by the moon. Not a day fox.
Loving it. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're like nocturnal, diurnal.
Nocturnal. Like that. Nocturnal, but also referencing the Ocean's saga of movies.
Okay.
The Ocean's trilogy.
Okay.
The Night Fox. Okay. He's the art thief.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's
I'm
like
unfamiliar.
that ninja. He's the ninja guy. He goes through the lasers just by pure like agility.
Oh, okay.
It's a very impressive scene.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
You should. Yeah. You haven't seen the Ocean's trilogy?
No.
Ocean's
11.
Like
Ocean's 11? Oh, yeah. I'm like, wait,
yes!
What? Like, the
Ocean's 11, 12. I mean, you know,
Oceans.
Danny Ocean. The Oceans. Danny and
I'm like, is this a Natural Geographic, like, series? Yes, actually, I saw the first one, and I think I saw the second one. I don't know if I saw.
Yeah, you know, Sandra and Danny. They're the Oceans.
Okay.
The Oceans.
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Well, I can promise you that the Night Fox is in Oceans.
Okay.
12. I don't know. Is the Vault the last one? I think the Vault is the last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to. I don't think I've seen the Vault. I know I saw the first two then.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's good.
Well, speaking of Oceans 11, 12, and 13 and gambling.
Yes.
You know, speaking of that, great segue into today's topic, which is hormonal birth control and how you may or may not be gambling with your own health and safety while taking birth control.
Yep.
So I think the reason that we wanted to cover this was originally because there was recently a study published. I know you guys have probably seen it online. I know we have talked about seeing it everywhere. And that was the Depo-Provera shot, right? Mm-hmm. And that is apparently causing lots of issues for people.
I have gotten probably 4 emails that are like melanoma style. Have you had the Depo shot? Please respond to be part of this class action lawsuit. You may be impacted. You may be at a higher risk for blah, 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 blah. So like, yeah, it's, I mean, I haven't taken Depo. Not a big fan of BC. Like, I get it. I get the purpose. But as a recipient, it is alarmingly volatile on your system. Like, I really didn't expect at, 20 years old to go through that much. Like, everyone seemingly was taking birth control pills, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay. And then I knew there were sugar pills in the mix, and I was like, oh, so they're not even, like, real pills all the time? And they're like, no. So,
But take them anyways. That was always like, you have to take it anyways.
Because it keeps you on schedule. So I'm like, okay. It made no sense to me, just like you're saying. But I was like, okay, well, it's, like, barely even,
Yeah.
So I got on them, and it was like, immediately my body changed. I was like way more sensitive, like literally my skin, like I remember like just it being more sensitive to everything. Like touch felt more like tender almost, like I felt like I was bruising easier, and then like way worse cramps, way worse symptoms, and the kicker, like wild mood swings, like crying and being like, why am I crying? Which at 20, if I'm having to ask why I'm crying, something is really wrong. Because, like, I don't know. I'm sure I was crying once a week. So, like, just, like, so much that I was just, like, I remember not being able to get out of bed. And I don't have that kind of, like, cycle. Like, I know that some people do and everything, but I just, I didn't ever experience that, and I couldn't go to class, and I couldn't eat, and it was just awful. And I was like, this is not worth it. Like, I'm just gonna make sure that there's always protection.
Yeah.
And I
think for me, what was weird was like, which I think you touched on there a little bit, of just like, it's like what everybody just did. Mm-hmm. Like, I literally remember, like, once I had like a serious boyfriend, and I was like probably in like 11th grade at that point. Mm-hmm. Like my mom was just like, okay, like, we have to go to the gynecologist, and, you know, you got to get birth control. And it's just like, you know, at that point, I don't even know if I was thinking about becoming sexually active really, but it was like almost like, this is just like what you do. Like, this is like a rite of passage. It's just like the next thing. And like, for me, taking like, because I just took like whatever the pill was back then. I honestly don't remember what it is. Yeah, but that like little to no side effects for me. And then I went a long time without taking birth control because essentially I was abstinent for almost a decade. Mm-hmm. And then that puts me like, now we're like mid-20s. And that was when I was like, I know, and this is like an important story that I wanted to share, because I was like, I remember getting all the education on like all the new birth controls that were out, and the one specifically that I liked was the NuvaRing, because it was like low dose, like a low dose estrogen. And like everything that I had heard about and everything that I knew was like, okay, estrogen's what causes the weight gain. It's what causes the mood instability, like whatever. So I'm like, ooh, low dose estrogen. Like, this is great. Fast forward to 3 months of using the NuvaRing, which, like, if people don't know what it is, it's just like a rubbery little ring. You insert it inside of yourself. It just hangs out there. And then like
watches
you absorb
Netflix.
You just absorb the, you know, the medication that way. So literally, I want to say that I gained like almost 50 pounds in 3 months. Like, wow. I just, like, never in my life had I ever had that type of reaction to any type of medication. And I was like, and I remember even going to my gynecologist, and they're like, well, like, you know, like, basically they were like, it could be a possibility, but they were kind of trying to chalk it up to the fact, like, you're getting older. Like, I had a big girl job at that point, so they're like, you know, you're relatively, like, sedentary, because I have a desk job, you know what I mean? Like, relatively sedentary, you're just getting older. Like, they try to chalk it up to like a million different things, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna stop taking this. And like, I never turned back. I was just like, that's when I started to really get deep into like natural methods and like cycle syncing and cycle planning and like all that stuff. And it's like ironic to me that it's like the most archaic form of birth control that like the Catholic Church actually, you know, agrees with, which is even crazier.
Wait, what's the most archaic form?
Like the calendar method, like just knowing, like tracking when you ovulate, getting a good idea, you know, of that. But so for me, it was just like, it was the amount of weight that I gained on the NuvaRing. And when I did further research on it, basically what it boiled down to is that it is not a lower dose of estrogen. If anything, it's more, because when you take an oral contraceptive, by the time it makes it through your digestive tract, you're getting like 0.5% of like whatever is in that pill. But when you insert something vaginally and absorb it directly into your bloodstream, you're getting all of it. You're getting 100% of whatever.
Okay, so but when you swallow it, then what, you pee the rest out?
Well, no, like your stomach acid destroys a lot of it. Like your stomach destroys mostly everything, and then it's like whatever makes it out of your stomach into your intestines, then that's when it gets absorbed.
That just makes me think, like, what's it doing to your organs then too? You know, it's like, does anyone even look at that? Like, if so much of it's not going to its intended purpose, like, what are the effects of all of the sediment along the way, and like what that's doing, you know?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because that is what this study that I found that was just recently published in 2023, and it was in the Journal of Brain Behavior and Immunity. Mm-hmm. And basically what this is doing, this study, first of all, interesting, hormonal contraceptives are safely used by more than 300 million women worldwide, which just, that seems like a lot.
That is a lot. Well,
past research has found that hormonal contraceptive pills have increased women's risk of chronically elevated inflammation, which carries long-term risks of developing illnesses such as cancer, cardiovascular disease, and autoimmune disorders, as well as potential mood disorders, including depression.
Yep.
So So, hormonal contraceptive users have been shown in past research to have higher levels of C-reactive protein, which is a marker of systemic inflammation compared to non-users. At the same time, they also had no differences in basal or resting levels of other markers of inflammation, including cytokines. In the study, nearly 130 women, 60 women using hormonal contraceptive pills and 67 being naturally cycling or free of hormone contraceptives, provided researchers a saliva sample at different times of the day, and then they rated their mood and their stress levels.
Okay.
Here we go. Researchers found that women who use contraceptives have higher levels of an inflammatory cytokine called TNF-alpha, both before and after the stress test. It also says, in comparison to the naturally cycling women, had a more female typical response to stress with higher levels of cytokine known as interleukin-6 rising alongside increased cortisol. So this is basically saying that women who are on the hormonal contraceptive have what they are calling a more male typical response to stress, which is very interesting.
What? We can't just skip over that.
I know, like that's a pretty big deal.
Why is that not its own article of like, oh my gosh, emergency?
Emergency, right? I mean, so this is just one study, and there was another study that I found that I'm having trouble finding it.
Well, while you're looking, when you were saying like it was just something you do to like get on birth control, I remember like girls being like, oh no, like I'm not like having sex, but like it's for my acne. It's to like regulate my cycle. Like they were giving that stuff out if you had like a limp. They were just like, you know what you need?
Oh
birth
yeah,
control.
no, absolutely.
Like acne? I'm sorry. I remember my one friend, I won't say her name because I don't think she would want me to. But she had prescriptions for a tanning bed, which is like, okay, reasonable for acne. Helps dry out the skin. Mm-hmm. And then also for birth control. And I was like, I don't know, I feel like let's try the tanning. Like I remembered asking her like, why don't you just do the tanning? Yeah. And she was like, because that's what my doctor prescribed. And like, that's how healthcare works. Like your doctor says it and you're just like, this is exactly the right thing for me. Completely negating the fact that your doctor has an ulterior motive that has nothing to do with your health to make you take medication.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Terrifying.
Well, and I think to your point, that kind of answers our question of what else is it doing to your body if it is prescribed for so many different things. Like endometriosis, like your skin, mood disorders, like all of these things. And so this is another study that kind of like backs up. This isn't the one I was looking for, but this study, which is published in the National Library of Medicine, PubMed. This is a study that says that within the first 6 months of taking hormonal contraceptive use, women experience a greater decrease in B12. And they're saying that this then goes on to impact your bone density and your bone health. So, and that was the study that I had found, was basically they are coming out now saying that it is depleting women of a lot, whether it is using it up or it's blocking the like receptors, it's depleting women of a lot of key nutrients that they need for health like this. Like I remember the B vitamins, but also ones that like help regulate mood. That was a big thing, was like, and I think that points also back to that other study about how like women are having a more male typical response to stressors. So it's just interesting. Like I don't want to tell people like don't take birth control, but I also feel like this like narrative that has gone on for the last 30 years, that it's just like completely innocuous and like there are no like costs to this benefit. Like I feel like that is the damaging narrative, if you will.
Yeah. I was gonna say something, but I forgot it. It was something you said a little bit ago. about, I don't know, I can't remember.
Was it bone density, mood disorders, B12?
Yeah. So there's like a super high rate of osteoporosis in women, like super, super high. But yeah, so I think that like that probably is a contributing factor, but also like the fact that it's, you know, taking away vitamins from your body, I understand its effectiveness at what it's supposed to do, but, you know, it just goes back to the whole thing of, like, I think just being aware of it. Like, if you're willing to take that risk and you're generally healthy, you're probably going to be fine. And, like, it's probably not really going to cause a big issue for most people. But I would appreciate a little more information instead of, like, rapid fire telling me all the risks at the end of a commercial with a smiling person in it. Like, that's not doing it. It's not doing the job. It's not making me feel cautious about it. And then in the moment that I guess it does make me feel cautious when I watch the commercial. But then in the moment that it's prescribed to you, are you ever told all of that? Because I can't tell you a single time that a doctor's been like, you know what, we need to get you on this. Like, you might have a little bit of weight gain, but, you know, that's common. Obviously, let me know if you have any side effects. And it's like just kind of whisked over where I think just, you know, doing the holistic disclosure of, okay, yeah, here's, you know, it's probably not going to do anything, but also here's a list, and I'm going to sit here while you read it, of the potential side effects. Do any of these really scare you? And do you have any questions about that? Like, just being presented with it in the moment, because when you're in the office with the professional and they're like, you need this medicine, you're just like, okay. And they're like, you're probably going to be fine. You're like, okay. No one said anything about B12 and osteoporosis.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and too, like, I feel like it's one thing, to your point, like, for you to take these educated risks, but it's like a lot of women, like, they're starting it younger and younger. And, like, it's not like, you know, you might, like, instead of it, like, it's like a one-size-fits-all thing, instead of it being like, yes, obviously there's people that are going to be at a higher risk due to their lifestyle choices of having an unwanted pregnancy, you know? But, like, you know, just being like, okay, you're like 14 now, let's put you on this hormonal birth control pill. Women are having children later than ever, so you're going to be on it for 15 years until you're 30. Literally. And you decide, you know what I mean? Like, and that's really like a, you know, it could be 35, you know, you could be on it for 20 years. Like, and it's just like, okay, 20 years of depleting your body of B2, like B6, folate, vitamin C. This is another study that I just pulled up that I'll link in our show notes.
Just went from B12 to, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, this is like vitamin C, B12, B6, folate, magnesium, selenium, zinc, and also it's linked to inflammatory bowel diseases and poor gut health. And I just can't help but think about how this is just another way of showing how the medical system just has failed women, like, at every turn. Because, again, I think it's great, like, if women are going to be in a situation where they're going to have multiple partners, it's not a good time in their lives to have children, like, whatever, do your thing.
Sure.
But I also feel like if you are in a committed relationship, you only just have to not have sex for, like, technically 24 hours in a month. Technically 24 hours, but also with the life of sperm, really it evens out to be like 5 days. So 5 days out of the month that you could just not have sex and not have to deal with all of these possible complications seems like, I don't know.
I mean, you know that I think your ability to track your cycle is borderline witchcraft. I don't know if I trust a bunch of college girls to remember to, like,
yeah, but now they have apps. They have
keep
apps,
a log,
and they even have a thermometer.
Even to know where your phone is every day.
They know where their phone is.
Yeah,
they have a thermometer. The thermometer links up with the app. You just take your temperature every day. It does all the work for you. There's technology has come a long, far way.
Okay, yes. But also, yeah, I just think like there's other methods, obviously. If you're going to present a super risky one, tell us it's super risky. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of like Depo is in the news now, but it makes me wonder about the history of all the other like birth controls, because Depo used to be used for, I think, migraines. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to get it approved for birth control, but the FDA was like, no, we're not going to do it. Full disclosure, I don't know if there were changes made to that drug. Doesn't seem like it. Then all of a sudden, like 20 years later, it's approved again. Mm-hmm. And not just for migraines, also for birth control. And now they're like, oops, turns out it's causing this brain issue, which is like, makes sense why it didn't get approved in the first place. Like it feels a little coincidental that it's the same zone. So it's like, you probably didn't change it, or you like barely did anything and everyone knew it. And it's like, you wanted to get paid. So you were like, whatever, it'll be mostly fine. And like, I also wanted to say, like, as far as like, yes, women are not set up the best right now, but I like to take a more optimistic approach of like, we just haven't gotten there yet. And the fact that we're talking about it shows that we are getting there. And it also shows that there are probably hundreds of thousands of other things that no one even realizes we should be paying attention to yet. So I totally accept it like as it is. I don't think people are trying not to keep us healthy. I just think that like, as a result of what we know, it's important that we change the way we give information and what kind of information we give. And so like, if you're a doctor and you take a vow or an oath, is that the same thing?
I believe so. I mean, I think it's the same thing. I would use them interchangeably.
I think a vow is like I was going to say a vow is like one-on-one. And that an oath is like to many, but I don't think that's. Can you Google it, please? Where's
I feel like it's synonymous, but let's see. Vow versus oath. A vow is a promise made to God or dedicated oneself to a higher purpose, a solemn promise that goes beyond social or religious requirements, a promise to abstain from something or to give something to God. An oath is a promise made in front of a witness or in a court of law. A promise is made to assure others of trustworthiness. A promise made in a ceremonial or jurisdictional setting.
Okay, so
examples: a vow to give oneself to God, an oath to tell the truth in court.
Yeah, so vow is like God, oath is like law, court, law.
Yeah.
Okay. So you take an oath and you should take a vow. But I guess you can't impose that on somebody just because they want to be a doctor. You're all Christians now.
Fun fact.
Sorry, doctors. I didn't mean it. You can be whatever you want. They're like, we are. Like they're listening, first of all. Yeah, I just think it is harmful to not say, hey, I know everybody's doing this right now, but like, if you're in the zone of people that get affected by this, like you're basically never going to be the same again. So like, I want to say that to you, like, dude, in class the other day, yesterday, I think, we're talking about, like disclosure. Like I was telling you, self-disclosure, but then there's also like disclosing diagnosis. And I'm like, the whole time this is being said, my face was like confused. She's like, well, the way that insurance is now, they really want for you to make a diagnosis. And there's a lot of debate over whether or not we need to share that with the client. And in some cases they want to know, and in some cases they don't want to know. But it's getting to a point now where you basically have to come up with a diagnosis in order to like get this coverage for your treatment. And I'm like sitting there like, are we putting on the table right now that it is an option to tell a person they're being diagnosed with a disorder or other illness and like continue on their care as if we have this alliance with them, which is like what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be working with the client for their own care, which is why your doctor asks if you have any concerns. Like, it's a group effort. They're helping you help yourself and vice versa. So like, the whole idea that you wouldn't tell somebody like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and put down in your permanent health records that you have acute stress disorder. So like, if you're going to be a military pilot and you can't have this, like we talked about how you want to do that, like heads up, you're probably not going to get this job.
Right?
Like, just eat that. But then like, how are you not going to tell me? Like, imagine your doctor knowing you have diabetes and just being like, well, I'm not going to tell her. It's just like,
yeah.
It's very strange. Like, I was very shocked to hear that.
Well, in response to that, I was looking up some stuff, some information, surprising, here on the Best Friend Files doing research. And one of the things with medical doctors is basically that's one of the reasons so many people are like overprescribed a lot of these medications. Like specifically, like let's say if you have high cholesterol, like they give you like statins are like a real popular medication. So a lot of times what they end up doing, the reason the doctors prescribe these things is because like if they don't prescribe a statin to you and you leave their office and you have a heart attack, now basically your family or you can sue your doctor because they didn't treat this issue that they know that you have. So I'm just interested to see.
Why is that a law?
Like, I'm just interested to see how that, you know, would play out. I don't know if it's even necessarily a law. It could have just been, it could be like a precedent, you know, it could just be a precedent that was set in a court somewhere. And then people are just like, well, you know, X, Y, and Z won their case. But I'm just thinking in terms of psychology, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. I just wonder how that would play out.
Yeah, like imagine, I don't know, imagine you know, have someone who's like a Boy Scout leader and they have, you know, moments of like, I'm trying to think of something, dissociation where, you know, they find themselves lost. Like there's this thing called a dissociative fugue. And it's basically where you travel, like people will get in their car or walk 150 miles and they'll just come to and be very confused, like, you know, why they're where they are, how they got there. And so obviously as a Boy Scout leader, if you're going into the woods and it's stressful for you, let's say, to be around a large group of loud children because of whatever your stress, your trauma has to do with, right? That you got this dissociative fugue. So let's say that's a trigger for you. And, you know, one of the things with trauma is like avoidance. So you don't want to think about it. You want to, you'll try to power through stuff. You know, maybe this person's like, I'm just going to get a little drunk. It's going to be fine. And so like, you'd want to know you have this disorder. I mean, this is a kind of a shitty example because you would know if you had dissociative fugue. If you ended up somewhere you're not supposed to be, you'd probably go see someone about it. But hopefully. Like the example is like, if you didn't tell that person, and I also imagine you'd have to tell them like, you have this disorder, you can't, like, you know, whatever. You'd want to know so that you were like, hey, I should probably have another adult with me when I lead this group of children into the woods so that they don't get lost or that I don't get lost and they're separated from me. So just that's a magnified kind of not realistic example, but like not telling somebody that you know they are prone to like a certain reaction or behavior or like compulsion, or like you're putting, like, knowledge is power. You're putting them at a disadvantage. Like, if I have high blood pressure, you have to tell me that so that I can at least research how to like manage it. So if you have anxiety, shouldn't you tell me so I know that like I should probably start looking into yoga classes or like my sugar intake levels, or, you know, talk to my family about it and see if anybody else has the same issue? Like, it's just bananas that they're like, well, maybe you don't tell them. And it's like, even if I have to make something up, I'm going to be like, I have to make something up right now. Like, you're stressed. You technically fit this acute stress disorder. I'm going to diagnose you, but I don't want you to panic because this is a temporary disorder. It lasts for 6 months, and I'm going to reevaluate you in 3 months because I really don't think that this is going to be a continued diagnosis. It also helps insurance to cover these sessions that I document it. That's the only reason I'm being this serious about it. Otherwise, I would probably just tell you you fit the criteria, but that it's not that serious. Like, that's the type of conversation I want everyone who has anything to do with my health to have with me. Like, keep it real always. Yeah.
That's all we can ask for. And I think that that is the biggest thing, which, I mean, I get excited because I do see a lot more people that are kind of like bucking the narrative, especially in women's health, just certain things, you know, especially birth control. A lot of people are more open about it. People are more open about like natural methods and just in general. And I think that as long as we continue that conversation of, you know, having these open, honest conversations about our own personal experiences and things like that, like, I think that that's what's going to help move the needle forward with, we have to do it ourselves because as we know, doctors didn't even want to wash their own hands after performing autopsies on rotten cadavers. They just reached right in and took the baby out.
She's obviously already told me this.
And
just as painful to hear.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are unfamiliar with this, then maybe we'll talk about it in another podcast, but just look up where the origins of hand washing and the medical profession began. And it'll be a real fun deep dive for you guys. A little interactive experiment we can do here. But, so.
Do not do it on your lunch break.
Not on your lunch break. Definitely, like, not on, like, a full stomach either, maybe. I don't know. I don't know when you should do it.
Go ahead and hold off.
Yeah. Maybe late at night, like when you're getting ready for bed.
There you go.
Know? Like,
yeah. Right before you start having dreams and nightmares and terrors.
Well, maybe if you like to doom scroll, you know.
Yeah.
Some people.
At least learn something. If you're going to make yourself hysterically stressed, at least learn something.
So, yeah.
Are you running for governor of New York? Because that answer about the moving the needle forward.
Oh.
I mean,
you know,
polished.
Maybe I should. But I sincerely believe that. Like, I'm just glad that we are in a time and a space where women can have these conversations with each other, post them on the internet, and hopefully get other young women and girls to rethink, you know, maybe their choices, but also just ask questions when you go to the doctor. Don't be afraid to be your own advocate.
That's probably the best. Questions. Yeah, that's the best advice. Is like when you're like, I don't know, I feel like this is rushed. I feel like I'm nervous. Just be like, I'm really nervous. I feel like I don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. That's enough.
Which I'm sure you having 3 children can really speak to that. Because I feel like everyone that I've spoken to that has had children, they're like, it is the most high pressure.
Oh my God.
Like all the doctor's appointments leading up to it. Like you're just like, what is happening? Can someone please slow down here?
It's wild. They're like, okay, Mom, we're going to have you restrain your child's hands while we hold their legs down. And we're going to give them 3 injections with a very long syringe. And
they're going to scream and cry.
You are going to look into their eyes as they plead, screaming at you for help. And okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. And you're just like,
wait, what is this for?
Sorry, measles? What's happening? They're like, one's a placebo.
It's a sugar shot. We want them to get used to getting needles. So
you know,
we plan on vaccinating the shit out of these little kiddos.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't want my kid's head to expand in their skull and them to slowly go crazy, which is what some vaccines prevent. So yeah, you know, shoot them up if that's the alternative. Let's do it. But tell me a little more about the risk. Really work me up into a frightened frenzy. Then, you know, which they do, to be fair.
Yeah.
With vaccines, you get pamphlets, like things stapled together, symptoms, side effects, like benefits, all the things where like, that is what I should be handed when I'm given antidepressants. Not just like,
anything.
Here's your
when
script.
You're given anything. Yeah.
Ta-ta.
And one quote that this made me think of to kind of like end this all with is, big fan, you know, of Andrew Huberman. And I love, because he always says, do what you will, but know what you're doing. And I feel like that is just a genius quote.
Powerful.
He is a genius because that is the truth. That's all I'm asking for. I wanna know what's going on, and I will gladly make those decisions. So
That's it.
when it comes to birth control, do what you will, but know what you're doing.
Boom.
Boom.
All right.
And I think we covered it all.
I think we did.
Okay.
Don't definitely like stay away from Depo for now. It's not.
Yes,
the vibe.
let's. And I would not suggest the NuvaRing. I would not.
I wouldn't either.
Not only for the weight gain, but like, you know, things can't get lost in there, but they can be temporarily misplaced. Like, let's just put it that way.
I'll
like,
say this for something.
I legitimately thought that this was gone. Like, I thought it fell out one time, and then like 5 days later, I was like, wait, what?
I'll say this for something that's never supposed to leave your body. I lost my NuvaRing a shocking amount of times. Like,
You
was
actually
just like,
lost it?
yes, was like, where did I put it? Because I kept taking it out in the shower. Because I was like, I feel like I need to rinse it. I don't know. I just need to rinse it.
Yeah. See, no, like I was like, one time I was like, wait, where is it? And then I'm like, what? And then I'm like, did it come out like while we were having sex? Like, I'm like, oh my God. And then like literally like a week later, I'm just like, what? There it is. Where the hell was it hiding?
Wild. I have to get my child. We have to.
Okay.
I have to
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Tune in for the next one. Like, subscribe.